Hi, welcome to my show. I have today as a guest Lisa Argo. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm so happy that you were able to finally make it. You've been busy traveling.
I
It's so
know it
exciting.
was so much fun. We finally got a vacation.
And well, I would like to. Well, it was a family vacation, but you also
Yes.
ended up doing some research. And well,
Yes.
Lisa is going to be presenting at
Yeah.
the Path of Consciousness
Mm-hmm.
retreat. You're going to be doing a labyrinth.
Yes.
And you actually ended up kind of in your family vacation doing some research. So how did that come about? If you can share that a little bit with us.
Well, my husband and I have never had a honeymoon.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
no, we didn't.
Okay.
We got married and it was a morning ceremony and it was beautiful. And we ended up grabbing a bunch of the family and friends and going to a Tiger game that afternoon. So I always said that was our honeymoon. But my husband said, let's go on a trip. I want to go to California. I said, okay, we can go to California. Thinking somewhere down the line, when he retires, we'll go to California and drive Highway 1. And he says, no, check flights now. And I
Oh,
went, oh, okay. So I did. And we ended up flying from Detroit into San Diego, traveled around the zoo there, which was just amazing, and then traveling up through LA, San Francisco, the Redwood Forest, Portland, and on into Seattle, and then back home. So it was an amazing trip, and I was so excited because I found a book on the labyrinth, and they had one in San Francisco at the Grace Cathedral. They actually had two, an inside and an outside.
oh, you mean for people to actually use, or just
Yes, yes.
okay?
You would give a donation,
Mm-hmm.
which was fine by me. And my husband said, well, here, give this. So I went and walked the labyrinth, and I went, oh, okay. Well, that was cool. And I really didn't get anything out of it. But then we found the one outside. And it was amazing because when I was walking the one inside, I kept hearing, it's the journey. It's the journey. So when we found the one outside, I heard it again. It's the journey. So I went, I'm doing it wrong. So I kicked off my shoes and went barefoot. And that's when I had the experience of a lifetime. It was amazing. And I suggest everybody doing it. Um, it was 42 feet across, and it
For
was
people
a
that might not be familiar. Go
seven
ahead.
cycle. Yes, that is
That's a
it.
labyrinth, yes.
It's a 7 layered labyrinth. Mazes tend to give you a problem to figure out where you turn left or right. But with the labyrinth, you start at one point, work your way around to the center, and then follow the same route back. So it's more of a spiritual journey, or whatever you would feel it to be. And as I said, once I took my shoes off and planted myself in the labyrinth, my legs began to feel heavy, as if I was carrying a large burden.
Hmm.
And the closer I got to the center, the harder it was to walk. And I got to the center and I asked for release. And I got it. It was beautiful. And I prayed and I said my gratitude and my love. And I was so light and carefree. I skipped all the way out. And it's a long journey out.
Well, I was introduced to Labyrinth, as I had mentioned to you earlier, when I was for our graduation when I was in Lynn School, in Lynn V. Andrews School,
Yes.
in our fourth year graduation. So we met at a gathering in Sedona, Arizona, in Arizona, and there was a labyrinth that we participated in. So I participated. I had no idea what it was, and I wasn't expecting at all to receive what I received. But as soon as I set foot into it, I was taken into a time in my life where I was taken to my birth country of Iraq, to Baghdad, and these memories just kind of came along with the sand. It was on sand, and it was just put together with stones, and I think now I gotta remember, because I think I might have been barefoot, because I think the sand created that kind of a memory. And so anyway, it was either later that day or the next day where Lynn did some work with me. And what happened at the labyrinth, the feelings that came that really just swept around me was part of that work that she then at that point worked from. And it was just amazing. So that is why we had included this in the writing and spiritual retreat. And I had included it in my book, The Experience, but all these experiences, what we have, where we come from, the messages that we receive, we can create a poem out of them, a short story, a book, an entire book. We can create from that one memory.
Yes.
I know you're working on several books right now.
Right now, yes. And this journey in the labyrinth enabled me to go back to the first book I started writing about my journey through cancer. Walking the labyrinth, when I did, it is 10 years this year that I am cancer-free.
Congratulations.
And thank you very much. And that is what I feel. That is what I accepted and wanted in that journey in the labyrinth, was to be free. And now in the first book that I started writing about my journey through cancer, that opened my eyes to so much of being able to release it and accept the changes that have come about from it, from the cancer, from the journey of cancer, that when someone is faced with a life-altering experience, whether it be cancer, accident, a traumatic experience, it changes you. And as writers, we have that ability and gift to write about it and teach others or share with others our journeys. And that enables us to be able to deal with our own.
It's a healing.
That's the way I'm working it.
And it's a healing process. So when we go through whatever we go through, it's a healing process.
Yes.
And as we write it, it's also another phase of the healing process. And what happened for me, and it sounds like maybe this is, in your journey, is when I went through the labyrinth, and then later, based off of that, worked with me one-on-one. And it was after that I came out with my 4-book memoir series. I finished the one book that took me forever, to finish. And that was again, and actually that was the one that won an Eric Hoffer Award. The very one that I contacted Lynn because I couldn't write it because I felt so stuck. And I remembered calling her thinking why can't I move forward with my writing career? And then 4 or 5 years later, I had already been working on this book for about 2 years, and 4 years later the book got published. But the point is that it was after that release that I was able, once I was so tied with the the traumatic experiences that
Yes.
I had experienced from where I came from. And so once I released that, then I was free to write about it.
Yes.
And it sounds like maybe this is where you're at right now, because I know you've been working. It's like something in the back of your mind for a while.
Yes, I have been working on that book for, just like you, 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been stuck. So through our conversations and your help, I started children's books, which I'm writing about a group of 5 boys and this little girl. And they have been a joy to work with, these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I had set the cancer book aside because I was stuck and I didn't know how to free myself. Yes, free myself to be able to go back to it where it wasn't reliving the pain and the hurt and the fear and the change of life and looking at a shorter life when I had just met my husband. We were dating. And I was finally at a point when I had been diagnosed where I was going forward in my life. And I didn't want to stop. And this labyrinth brought me to that release, to where I could go through and go back to the book.
Wow. And that experience, given your experience, then you can help others possibly do that same thing, because we're going to be having it at the Path of Consciousness Conference and
Yes.
Retreat.
I know.
I'm so excited about
I
this,
am
because I have
too.
not done a labyrinth since I did do that one when I was in Lynn School. And, I want to share that this whole journey with you has been more than just how you ended up being a presenter, how we even ended up talking about this right now is, so we met through Reverend Barbara Yarnell.
Yes.
If you remember.
A very wonderful woman.
Yes. Yeah, there she is.
Yay.
It's it's at the Center of Enlightenment in Ferndale, where I was a speaker. And you actually took this picture, you know that? You were the one that took that. You took a picture of us. And then she had known about my wanting to start a retreat or a conference. And she said, you know what, let me in, because I had gone to Mexico, to Cancun not long before that, and then this idea came. It's called the Path of Consciousness. This is literally the path, and I went through that, and then what do they call those bath or steam?
Oh, yes.
Yes, where you go into this little cave thing and pray, and I forgot the name, but anyways, it's a very traditional way of doing things, and the experience was so incredibly wonderful that when I came out, I said, I wonder if there's a way I can bring this home, because you can't travel to Cancun, every day or even yearly. You never know. I mean, I thought about it. I said, well, if I came back here once a year, so I thought, how can I create a community similar to that here in Michigan? And I think I just mentioned to her once or twice.
And she
and as
takes
wise
it
as she is,
yes.
I just mentioned it like it was an idea. And then she kind of took that idea and helped make it happen by introducing me to you, because she said, well, Lisa has a lot of experience, and she's, thinking about doing something similar. Perhaps you guys can come together and do this. And then the next thing I know, we ended up visiting Colombier.
Oh, it's beautiful.
This is where the event is going to be at. And I don't know if you remember, we decided we went just to visit and check it out, and we decided right there
that was there.
We said, you know what, this is where we're going to have it.
Yes,
based on what we saw, we felt like this is the right place. And after that, things were just kind of, moving along. I mean, the dates were happening. Everything
just laid itself right out. It really did.
And then, and then here we are.
Yes.
This we started like a year ago, I
Yeah.
would say.
Oh, yes.
It's
We
been a
started
year,
a year, one
and
year.
here it is. And I just think that, for people to realize the benefit, just as
Mm-hmm.
you going to California and experiencing that, and that was just doing the labyrinth.
Oh, yes.
Imagine, we're going to be doing all these different workshops and classes, and it's really focused on writing and spirituality, because
Yes.
they go hand in hand. Most writers are spiritual in some way, because they
Yes.
become very sensitive, and this is why when they write and people can connect to them, because they are going into the depth of a human's heart,
Yes.
of the setting of life.
Of,
They
of who we are
of who we are, yes,
as people.
as people. And also for people that are not necessarily looking for just the writing aspect, the writing
Mm-hmm.
process is very healing in itself. So
Yes.
whether you are intending to grow as a writer in order to um, be a better writer or get published or whatever your
Mm-hmm.
intention are, another thing they don't know is, well, maybe they do know. I didn't know it. When I was stuck, I didn't know that there was a story from my past that created a certain trauma that I wasn't able to move forward with my story. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was released of that through spiritual practices, through the help of Lynn and my mentors and the ancient teachings that we were taught,
Yes.
all of a sudden I became quite prolific. I was quite prolific, but I wasn't able to express myself
Mm-hmm.
clearly, and freely. And there was a lot of fear associated with that. But even if that's not your intention, writing is very healing. Doing the spiritual practices that we're going to be doing, whether it's yoga, and then that time away, I think being in that kind of environment, in a spiritual and writing community, in a community that if you live in Michigan, it's so close by, so you don't have to put so much effort and money into getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and based on the feedback I've been getting, it seems like such a necessity nowadays.
It does.
Yeah.
We have all these boundaries between us and ourselves that we've blocked all this creativity and feminine energy, if you want to
Yes, that's right.
definitely say it that way, to release our creativity, get us back to who we really are and the people we are, and more spiritual, more into gaining our own goals and setting appropriate boundaries instead of just blocking everything. And I'm very excited about not only the labyrinth, that we actually have a labyrinth here in Michigan that we can utilize, but that the other workshops and teachers that we
The
are going to
other
come
teachers
across
are great.
in this workshop
Yes.
and in this retreat, it's going to be beneficial for all of us.
Everybody that I know that is participating in this, they love what they do. Whether they're all writers in some way or another, whether it's through blogging or have books or however they are.
Yes.
But the one thing that they all have in common is this desire to serve and to make the world a better place.
Yes.
I think that's what really connects all of us, that we know that all these gifts are wonderful, that God has given us, and that we want to utilize them. But at the same time, for us to create that kind of shift, that, to have a different level of consciousness, to have a shift in consciousness by participating in these different activities and in these different workshops. And I think that's how we came together, you and I
Yes.
believe. Yeah, yeah. And
Yes.
Reverend Barbara Yarnell is from that desire.
And that shift in consciousness is part of what drew me to the labyrinth, was that in the labyrinth you have an ability to gain answers, expand your knowledge, and get your spiritual experience that you need. And at the base of it all is the gratitude that this will come to you.
Well, you brought in some facts about Labyrinth that I did not know about. You got to share some of this because I always love to learn more and more. But
it amazed me in reading the history about labyrinths where we have found them. Well, the archaeologists have found them. They have found them on coins in Crete. They have been in pottery in ancient Syria. And they have been on structures in ancient Egypt. And they have been used in caves where they would trace out with their fingers the labyrinth before they went into their spiritual, their sacred place. It calms the mind, centers the breathing, and allows you to focus and listen and hear what you really need to hear.
You know, the way to validate something is when you don't know what it is and you get that experience from it. Like, I had no clue, honestly, what they were. There's a lot of things I didn't know who Lynn Andrews was when I went there. I didn't know what shamanism was. I mean, and sometimes you're better off than when you try to label something or look too deeply into it, just to let your feelings go. But what you just described is exactly what I felt from that experience, not knowing. So, it's not like I knew that this is what I was supposed to expect from it, and then that I was, which that happens too. If you have a certain expectancy, then you receive that. But I honestly didn't, and yet it did really have that kind of it tapped me in that way. It touched me in that way.
Yes. And it's amazing because until we went to Columbia to look at that information for our retreat, I had never really thought about labyrinths or tapped into that.
Oh, yeah, because they're the ones that were, so part of the idea was because they had that available.
Yes.
So that's even more of like how this is all kind of a calling in a way. It's like they were showing us what they had, the fire ceremony outside, based on what was available, and that's why we made our decision so quickly, because they already had what really something that tapped with us, and it made it resonated very easily with us. Was the labyrinth, was the fire ceremony that we can enjoy, and then the chapel.
Yes,
they have that beautiful chapel as well that we're going to be using for gong meditation. And then the walking area, even the outside area with the trees, and we're going to be having like a little the trail that Patty Shaw's gonna, our nature walk, yoga. So Sandy, my niece, she went down there and took some pictures.
I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, she took some pictures. She said, I found the spot. She took this picture outside. She's like, this is where we're going to have it, because she wanted to see the level of the grass and everything like that. Yeah, but it was so lovely, like the scenery over there. So so the place really helped out, but that's why you feel like when everything resonates, it's like really meant to be.
Yes, and it did. It did. Everything flowed. As we just had a conversation, the synchronicity of it all, everything came into play. The spot was beautiful. What our needs were all fulfilled. And as in the labyrinth, we didn't even know we wanted that. But it was there for us. It was
there, yes.
And it resonated with me. And when I had that chance to take a pilgrimage to it in San Francisco, it just brought everything full circle. And then being able to come here and tell you how wonderful it really was.
Yes, because we haven't seen each other since. You've been busy, like I said, traveling and stuff like that.
Yes. It's nice to be home.
Well, yes, and it's nice to see you again.
Yes.
Just even now listening to you, it reminds me of everything of our beginnings, how it all started. And well, we do have only a few minutes. similarly to, most of my guests who I've known for a long time, time
Yes.
flies very quickly.
Oh my goodness, yes. I
You know,
can't
because
believe
we're used to
this.
being together for usually like a couple of hours at
I
least.
know.
Not like this half-hour thing does not feel right.
I know. We
Yeah,
still
it's like
have.
what happened with the rest of
Yeah.
2 hours. Yeah, but I think the kind of work that we're doing and the practitioners that are going to be available, they're really offering such wonderful gifts, and their
Yes.
gifts is to bring out other people's gifts.
Yes.
That's really what it is, for us to all learn from each other. So,
Mhm.
it, to experience this wonderful experience, especially with getting a workshop with you, just to go to the path of consciousness. It's October 5th to 7th of this year at Columbier, and it's thepathofconsciousness.com. And Lisa is going to be doing a wonderful workshop. Everybody's going to be, working. It's like an all-day thing. Like it starts Friday at 4 and ends Sunday at 3, but Saturday we're literally like from 8 to all the way at night when we're doing the bonfire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm very excited now that I have had the experience of the labyrinth to walk it again and share that experience with others. And there's going to be a journal writing with it.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I remember you mentioned that.
Yes. And because that's part of this retreat is writing and fulfilling yourself. That's part of it. When you open yourself up, things are going to come. And you'll be aware. And it will be I'm hoping, just as an amazing and rewarding as it was for us in our own individual walks, that it'll be just as rewarding for everyone else.
Yes, it definitely is. I want people, you know what, we only have a minute and we didn't get the chance to speak about your other wonderful things going on, that you're the student of the Center of Enlightenment Ministry program.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
very excited.
And CEO is an independent spiritualist church in Ferndale, and then you serve on the congregation as a certified medium and of spiritual message and spiritual healer.
Yes,
And
and I've
spiritual
taken
healer.
my second attunement for Reiki with Patty Shaw, who will be a presenter there also at the retreat.
Well, and
So
yeah,
it's full
and
circle.
it's full circle. Given your credentials, what I mean is that so that people who will be participating in this will receive a lot from your
Thank you.
your presence.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
So, well, thank you so much for coming.
It's
And
my honor.
Yes,
Thank
and
you
I will
very,
see
very
you
much.
soon.
Yes.
Hopefully before the retreat, but definitely at
Oh,
the retreat.
Oh, yes, we still have a few meetings to take yet.
Yes. So, thank you. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Thank you very much.